Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 218. I'm Lisa, also known as Fibernymph on Ravelry and Instagram. Today's Thursday, October 13th, and it is a dark, well, it's lightning, but it's a dark and stormy morning, kind of. It's very rainy today. We're going to have rain through most of the morning, I think. Then it'll clear up and be a beautiful weekend, which is wonderful because it's going to be Rhinebeck weekend. So those of you going to Rhinebeck, you'll have a good time. I'm going to Rhinebeck. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that because I was not supposed to be going to Rhinebeck. I had no plans whatsoever to go to Rhinebeck. None. Until 2 days ago. And now all of a sudden, I'm going to be at Rhinebeck on Saturday. I'll talk more about that later, but I just had to put that out there because I'm so excited. There is an itty bitty tiny ant crawling up the wall behind you. Not. Did I make you turn around? That would be so funny if I did. No, the wall in my office. This is a weird time of year to see an ant anywhere. He must have come in like on the cat or something. And now he went behind a picture, so I can't even get to him. I digress. Anyway, hey, how are you? I hope you're having a good week. I just also want to say up front, if you are somebody who is in an area that got hit with the hurricane last week, my thoughts are with you. What a terrible situation. I know there are still people who were evacuated and have not been able to return to their homes. My thoughts are with you, really. You know, all last week, I just kept watching it because my mom's in Florida, right on the coast, up, by the Georgia border, and we kept watching, and as of Wednesday morning, she was like, I'm okay, I'm going to stay here. They hadn't been evacuated or anything yet. She's like, just going to ride it out. Okay. And then by Wednesday evening, after she got home from work, she's like, yeah, I'm out of here, because they did issue an evacuation order for Amelia Island. She's not right on the island. She's a few miles inland off the island, but she said, yeah, her husband, who passed away this summer, they never had a hurricane to deal with the whole 10 years they were down there, but she said we had always talked about it, and if it ever got to the point where they were evacuating the island, she said we were just going to be out of here. So someone from work offered for her to go with them to a relative's house in Western North Carolina, which was such a blessing because she didn't really have anywhere specific to go. She would have just been in the car driving by herself. So I was so thankful that she had someone to go with. And they did. They left Wednesday. I guess they got up there Thursday sometime, and then stayed till Sunday and drove back down Sunday. Very thankfully, her house sustained no damage. She lost one huge tree in her front yard. But other than that, it was really pretty minor stuff. A few segments of fencing came down, which the fence wasn't in great condition to begin with. So fencing, a little bit of minor landscaping, but otherwise her house is fine. Her power was off, I think 30 some hours, but she said she really didn't lose anything, notable, and she didn't care. At that point, she was just glad that she was safe, all her friends were safe, and the house was not damaged. They didn't have any flooding right in her neighborhood or anything, so she was very fortunate. Thank you to everybody who asked about her, though. A lot of people were asking on Instagram and everything because I've talked about my mom being in Florida before. So all that to say, I really have been thinking a lot about everybody. And my son, my oldest son, is in the east coast of North Carolina. My grandson is in central South Carolina. So I've got a lot of people down there in that area that were getting hit with rains and everything. And I guess North Carolina is still being pummeled with rain from what I've seen. I don't know. I haven't been keeping up with it so much because it's kind of getting stressful for me. I know that sounds really wimpy, but you can only watch any kind of news stuff so long, like that, or all this presidential that's going on in the US right now, all the election stuff. I've had my fill of it. I don't even want to focus on it. Anyway, this past week, I have to say, I've been a little under the weather. I think it's maybe just a seasonal thing. It's not a full-blown cold even, but I'm very sneezy the last few days and just sort of not on top of my game. So hopefully that won't come across too much in the podcast. I'll try to stay energetic for you. Anyway, let me just say hello to you. If you are watching and you're new, thank you so much for coming and checking the podcast out. I know we didn't have any new introductions in the 90% Knitting group's welcome thread. At least as of yesterday when I checked and I made my show notes, we didn't. So if you are new and you'd like to introduce yourself there, I would love to see your introduction and read it. But anyway, I'm so thankful that if you choose to come and watch, that you do, whether you've watched for a long time or you're just finding the podcast, it's great. Thank you for being here. And just a little bit of directional stuff. I do have a Ravelry group for the 90% Knitting group. That's where I post my show notes. I also embed the podcast there, so you can actually just watch it there. It's on YouTube, it's on iTunes. There's a Fiber Nymph Dye Works group on Ravelry as well. That's simply for my yarn business stuff. But then there's a Fiber Nymph Dye Works page on Facebook, which is actually a really good place to go and like that page, because I post information both about business stuff, yarn and updates and special things going on. But I also always post like when there's a new 90% knitting update or episode and all kinds of things. That's a very good central location to go for information. So, okay, I think that's all of the housekeeping. I'm drinking some peppermint tea this morning. It's my comfort beverage whenever I'm not feeling good. So let's talk about knitting, shall we? Let me just give you a brief rundown of what I'm going to talk about this episode. I don't usually do this, but I think I'm going to start because a lot of times my episodes run a little long, and I'm so trying to keep them under an hour. I would love to keep them under 45 minutes, quite frankly. I'm one person. I shouldn't have that much to talk about. But I know they get long sometimes, and some of the important things that I do want you to know about don't come until the very end, and if you don't have time to watch the whole thing, you don't know that you might be missing something. So just to give you a rundown, I've got some works in progress to talk about. I'm going to talk a little bit about the current knit along. I've got some new things to show you. We're going to talk a little bit about Rhinebeck this weekend. I've got some 10% for you, which is mostly about books that I've been reading and listening to, as well as I will tell you a little bit about a motorcycling adventure I had last weekend. And then lastly, I've got some shop news, and that's where there's some really exciting stuff that I want you to know about. I've got there's a colorway in the shop right now that I know some people have been waiting for. There's a story with that though this week, and I want you to know about that because it's going to be helping to actually raise money to benefit Hurricane Matthew relief. Beyond that, there's not going to be any official update until the end of the month, but I do have some Dyer's Secret Stash that I'm going to be putting in the shop this weekend, and I've got two new clubs that are going to be coming up later this fall. So I'm going to tell you all about that in this episode. So feel free to skip parts that you don't want to watch and go to the parts that you do, but that's the lineup for today. Okay, so let's get into it. Knitting. No finished objects this week, but I do have works in progress that I want to share with you. First off, my antler cardigan. Honestly, it didn't see a whole lot of work. It felt like it did. But it's at that point in the long stockinette body slog that you knit and knit and knit and knit, and you feel like you should have just knit 5 inches, and the tape measure says, nope, you only knit an inch. So this is where I was last week. This is how much I put on this week. Not very much. I've still got about 1.5 inches to go before I reach my 18 inches and can incorporate the sleeves onto this. Honestly, I was knitting the other day and I kept measuring, and the tape measure's like, nope, only 1 inch. Nope, you've only done 1 inch. Every time I looked, still 1 inch. Finally, it's like it's going to say, nope, you've only done like 1/2 inch. It's like, stop lying to me, tape measure. But anyway, so this is my antler cardigan. The pattern is by Tin Can Knits, and I'm using Cascade 220 Heathers in the Aspen colorway. I adore this yarn. I cannot wait to have this sweater finished. I just wish I could get to that point where I can put the sleeves in, and then I can start working on the fun yoke part with the cables and the actual antler pattern. It's going to be so awesome. I'm hoping it'll be awesome. I hope it fits when it's done. That's always my thing with sweaters. I get them knit and they're either too tight or too large. They're usually too large. I don't know. But so far I'm doing real well with gauge on this, so we'll see. That may be a car project for me this weekend. I haven't decided yet because I'm not sure if it would be smart to take that in the car and then start trying to work the cable part while I am in the car. That may not be a great idea because I won't be able to stop and try things on. And I really do want to be able to do that with the yoke to make sure the yoke is not turning out too large. Because that's where I always end up with problems with sweaters is the shoulders end up being a little too large and then they end up being droopy and roomy and they just don't look very neat. Anyway, that's the first work in progress. Second work in progress that actually did see a good bit of progress this week are the Twilight socks. So last week I showed you the first one. It was still in progress. Oh, I already took the the stitch marker out because I needed it. I think I was to about here on it last week. So I finished the rest of the foot and did the toe. So I just need to put the afterthought heel in, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to use that gray West Yorkshire Spinners yarn and put a contrasting afterthought heel in, which will go in right about here, which is why there's a progress keeper there. But this is the Arnie and Carlos Twilight colorway from Regia. So I did that, and then I also cast on the second one, and this is how much progress I have made on that. See, I've got a stitch marker in here noting where I was yesterday because I actually recorded yesterday and then realized it was so long and rambly. I just had to do it over. I couldn't publish that. It was terrible. Anyway, so if I sound like I don't know if I've said something already or not, that's why, because I probably did say it yesterday, but I'm saying it again today. Okay, so here I am. This is most of the cuff. I would say I probably have, it's well over half the cuff. Obviously, I did not do anything to try and line things up. So I've got, what, another almost inch and a half. I'd say a good inch and a half to go before I will reach where the afterthought heel will eventually go in. I keep track of it just because I like to know. In my head, I divide socks up into cuff and foot. Even if I'm putting an afterthought heel in and you are basically just knitting the big tube, which is, you know, however many inches long, I still like to know that I've hit that point where the heel will be going in. So anyway, I'm enjoying that. You know, it's a fun yarn to work with. I love the self-patterning yarn. I would love to get that pair finished, though. That is definitely going to be a car project because I would love to be able to finish that and have a Christmas gift out of the way because that's going to be for my daughter. So that would be awesome. Another project that I worked on, although it's actually a cast on, but it's a continuation of something I showed you last week. I had showed you a pair of socks that I cast on while I was on my canoe trip out of the Patton's Croix Effects yarn, that orangey color. I can't remember what the number was. But I didn't realize that that particular yarn is not a regular fingering weight. It's a much heavier fingering weight, almost like a sport weight. So I was casting them on for my son. I showed them last week. I did them on US 1s, which is what I use for socks in general. And I did 72 stitches because his foot is much bigger. Well, I was getting a huge sock with bulletproof fabric because it's a heavier weight yarn. I could have used 1.5s, but I didn't have those with me when I was away. So, you know, the choice was rip it out, start it over on 1.5s, and use fewer stitches, because 1.5s and 72 stitches would have been gigantic, or just rip it out and start something completely different for him, because the other issue with that yarn was that it had that purple that was a thread running through the whole colorway that I didn't really see in the skein, but when I started knitting it, I could definitely see that ply was in there pretty much through the whole thing. So I opted to just rip it. Had it been a regular sock on like 60 stitches and I was getting bulletproof fabric, I would have just continued and I would have finished them and worn them as just a pair of very warm socks for me. But I can't wear a 72 stitch sock, especially whenever it's, you know, coming out super huge due to the yarn. So I started a new one for him. and I pulled out my only skein of Gnome Acres yarn that I have. And this is it. This is the Naruto colorway. Let me see. Do I have the tag? Gnome Acres. Naruto is the colorway. It just says fingering sock. It's 462 yards of a 75/25 superwash merino nylon. So there's the tag. I chose this colorway for him because both he and my daughter used to love watching Naruto, the anime show. I used to enjoy watching it with them too, to be quite honest. And so that's why I bought this yarn a couple years ago from her, because I just thought it was fabulous. And the colors are perfect. If you are familiar at all with that anime, you know that these are Naruto's colors. He's the title character. That orange and blue and black, those are the colors of the outfit that he wears, and that yellow is his hair. It's just spot on colorway for the character. So since my son used to enjoy that show so much, I thought it would be kind of a kick to make socks for him out of that. So I did cast on another sock, US one, 72 stitches. It's definitely not a bulletproof sock. I was planning to just do this 2x2 rib the whole way. It looks really big to me right at the moment. I don't know. I guess I'm comparing it maybe to the sock that I ripped out. I don't know. I think I like it. I know my son doesn't prefer plain stockinette socks, which is what I tend to knit a lot, because I don't like doing highly patterned socks. So I thought, well, I'll just do this whole cuff and the instep 2x2 rib for him. I may. I don't know. I haven't gotten to that point of deciding yet, because I haven't been putting a lot of work into this yet. But I think I'm going to finish my daughter's socks first, and then I will start plowing away on these. But I do like the yarn. I like the fabric I'm getting. It's very soft. So I don't know how well it'll hold up for him. He's a little hard on socks. The Patton's Croy would have been excellent for him, because it's more of a workhorsey yarn. But I think this will be okay too. So anyway, that was weird. You can tell I'm probably not like totally in love with that pair of socks right now as they are. I just don't know. I think it's a very busy yarn. That might be part of it too, because even with the 2x2 rib, it's not like there's a pattern to get lost in all that color, but it's just a very busy looking sock. And in the 2x2 rib, I don't know. It seems very busy. That would be the best word to describe it to me. So I don't know. Stay tuned. I may change my mind on that one too. Eventually I'll latch on to something that I know he'll like and that I'll like to do for him. All right, last project that I worked on this week was my mini granny square, crochet granny square blanket. I told you last week I had a bunch of little squares that I had worked on, and I didn't show them to you because I feel like they're always kind of weird just to show you the individual squares. I like to wait until I have the white border on them and have them added to the whole blanket. So that's what I did this week. So starting at this little marker here, I will be honest and tell you, I don't remember what a lot of these yarns are. Some of them are mine, so I do know those. But as far as the other ones, I don't really know a lot of them. And that's kind of pathetic. Because, some people refer to these as cozy memory blankets. I have no cozy memories of these yarns. It's just like, yeah, I remember knitting something out of that. I don't know. Whatever. I'll have memories of making the blanket. How's that? All right, so this green, this was part of some sock, like an opal sock yarn or something that I used, or a Zitron XXL, I think, that I used for a pair of socks for my son one time. This, I think, is a Numma Numma yarn that I made myself socks out of, and they wore out almost immediately because I knit them way too large gauge. This one is one of my self-stripings. I believe it is Winter's Wizards. You'd think I would know since it's one of mine. The downside to using self-striping yarns for these tiny little squares is you don't get all of the colors in each square. And since I have a lot of colorways that have similar colors, it's really hard to say at this point, but I am pretty sure that this is part of a Winter's Wizards mini skein, some of the colors out of that. This was some Great Lakes Dye Works. I can't remember what she calls her, a Great Lakes something. It was OMG Unicorns. I made those socks for my daughter. This, I don't remember what the yarn is, but it's this lovely bright yellow orange that I made myself a pair of socks out of many years ago in the middle of winter because I needed something bright and happy. Then these two squares, this one and this one, these are my yarns. This is a bedazzled mini that I had in the kiddie pool colorway. Sorry, I could picture it. So I did both of those. And again, you can just see that, you know, you don't get all of the colors out of one mini. It was actually sort of funny because this one, you can see it started blue into the peach and it ended with this teensy weensy little bit of yellow right up there. And so then the next square started with the yellow and went out to the green. This is some plumage, also one of my colorways. This is more of that Winter's Wizards color. This is some Neely's Knits yarn, which was the You Are a Firework colorway, which I made a pair of socks, and then my mom said I'd like those, so I gave them to her this summer. And this is some of my yarn. This is the Polywana Cracker colorway, and this was the Squish 2.0 base. So I'm really excited about the fact that I've started a 5th row. So look, it's getting larger. It's going to take me forever to make it a full blanket. Look here, I can fill the whole screen with it. Isn't that exciting? But yeah, I love this project. I have no desire to rush through it. It's definitely going to be a very long-term project. I just love seeing all the colors come together. I love putting the little white borders on them. That's just some of my bounce yarn, which is undyed, that I'm using for that. And yeah, it's a fun project. It makes me happy to work on it. So it's always a lot of ends to weave in, but I kind of do those in bunches. So I just take a day and I weave in ends for an hour. It's good. It's good. So that's it. That's all of the knitting that I worked on this week. You know what? I'm sorry. I've had bra strap issues. TMI, I know. I didn't tell you what my shawl is that I'm wearing. It's a tiny little shawlette. I knit this years ago. I think this was 2011. This is a Wendy Johnson pattern. Wendy Johnson used to design tons and tons of patterns. I don't know that she's designing anymore. At least I haven't seen anything new from her for a while. I mean, she's got a full-time job apart from anything design-oriented, but she was a very prolific designer for a while, and she would do mystery shawls in the summer sometimes. And so this was her summer mystery shawl in 2011, and I knit it out of some of my yarn. It was one of my original bases. I don't carry it anymore. It's a light fingering weight. It was called Cirrus, and I believe I just had like a partial skein, and I used that for this. This is the Smoke on the Water colorway, which I do still dye occasionally. It's one of many colors. It's from back in the vault, you know. It was a cute little shawl. It was fun to knit. I totally screwed up along the center line a couple of different places, but I just didn't care. It's small. It's definitely kerchief size, sort of, so I tend to just wear it. I keep it, okay, I can't find the middle. Okay, this way. It's hard to use the camera screen as like a mirror because everything's opposite. Anyway, I usually just toss it over my shoulders when the back of my upper back and my neck is cool, like on a day like today. It's just the perfect amount of warmth. So anyway, I like it. Like I said, it's a cute little shawl. And you could wear it the other way around too. That's the other nice thing about those little shawls. You can put them in the front, the point in the front, and wrap them around. They work that way too. But you know that. Okay. I have been spinning. I know, shocker, right? My Traveler wheel, my Ashford Traveler, is up at the Mountain House. And so I can only work on that project, which is the Briar Rose Fibers BFL in this beautiful turquoise blue. I can only work on that up there. And I've had 2 bobbins of it finished for quite a while. And at this point, I don't know which 2 those were, but it doesn't matter. The BFL that I have in this color, I have 2 different bumps of it. When I purchased them, I got them at the same time. I'm fairly certain they were dyed at the same time, so the same dye lot, but they were not advertised that way. So what I'm doing is, my plan is to do a 3-ply out of all of this because I've got a lot of this, 2 pretty sizable bumps. I think it's close to 2 pounds, somewhere between 1.5 pounds and 2 pounds. Anyway, I'm doing 2 bobbins from like bump A, and then I'll do a bobbin from bump B. That's what I've got here, and I will ply those together as a traditional 3-ply. I've now started my next set of 3 bobbins, which will be 2 bobbins of bump B and 1 bobbin of bump A. So that's just basically my way of combining both of those fiber lots or fiber bumps in a way that will hopefully combine the colors. So if there is anything slightly different from them when I go to knit up with all of this yarn, I won't have to worry about you know, alternating skeins or whatever. I can just knit with them as they are and life will be good. I think that'll work. I'm happy with that plan. So those are my first 3 bobbins. I have a 4th bobbin on the wheel now, which is almost complete. I tried to finish it this morning before I came here, but I didn't have time. So anyway, so bobbin number 4, which will be the second skein of yarn, is underway. I had actually hoped to have plied these before now too, because they've actually been sitting here for a couple of weeks. However, I have another project on my sidekick, which is here at my house, and I ply on my sidekick because I have the bulky flyer and the big bobbins, so I could actually ply that whole set, those 3 bobbins. I could ply all of that onto 1 bobbin and not have to divide it up into separate skeins. That's what I like to do. Unfortunately, I got a little antsy a couple of weeks ago and I decided I'm in the mood to spin, but I had to spin on my my sidekick since the Traveler wasn't here. So I pulled out a loop bullseye bump and started spinning that on my Traveler. If you remember earlier this year, I was really on a loop bullseye bump binge trying to get through them because I've got so many of them. And they're always enticing. I know she's going to probably be at Rhinebeck, and I'm going to want to buy another one. I have to behave. But anyway, I spun at least 2, maybe even 3 as just singles earlier this year, and I really liked doing that. I was trying to spin them a little thicker. I was trying to spin them woolen. I'm doing a lot of woolen spinning. Matter of fact, all 3 of these are spun woolen, and I'm really enjoying the process. That is not my default spin. My default spin is a fine worsted, and I'm trying to branch out and do a little bit less fine in a woolen, an airier yarn. But anyway, I did start that loop bullseye bump on my sidekick a while ago, and I didn't even get through very much of it. And so it's sitting out there on the wheel, but that means I'd have to take it off the wheel in order to apply this on my other bobbin, and I just haven't had the time or inclination to do that, but eventually I will. And then you'll see the finished product. So that is my spinning. That's everything I've worked on this week. Let's talk about the KAL. The Work Your WIPs KAL is well underway. I've just got to say, I am loving your enthusiasm for this knit along. You guys are going to town. You're finishing all kinds of projects. I've gotten so many messages from people saying how happy they are that we're doing this because everybody's got lots of WIPs, probably everybody. I'm sure there's a few people out there who are very monogamous and only work on like 1 or 2 projects at a time. I'm not one of you. I'm one of the ones who has lots of WIPs. Although I am finding I'm trying to be monogamous with the WIPs that I have now so I can actually make progress and finish them. But a lot of people have just been so happy that we're doing this, and they're flying through these WIPs, getting things cleared off, because it'll be so nice to do that these last 3 months of the year, start 2017 really fresh and new without tons of lingering projects. It's a great plan, isn't it? Hopefully we'll all see a lot of progress towards that. At any rate, it's underway. Go check out the chatter thread. You guys are nice and chattery. I'm enjoying reading your comments and seeing your projects that you're working on. The finished object thread is there. Remember, for this one, you are posting each finished WIP that you finish. You're posting it in an individual post in the finished object thread. So there will be 1 post per project. That's it. So there should be lots and lots of posts by the time this is all done. All of the guidelines and rules and how I'm doing prizes and everything, that is all listed in the guidelines in the chatter thread, so check it out. If you have questions, feel free to ask me. I'll be happy to help. Oh, one thing that has been asked a couple of different times, For the prize, they'll be awarded for the person who has the most finished WIPs by weight. That's optional. You don't have to do the weighing part if you don't want to. It's only if you want to be included in that. Someone asked, a couple people have asked about, is that weight of just the yarn of the project, or like if it's a cardigan or something and you have buttons on it, you know, are the buttons, do they count the weight of those? No, it's just the yarn. So if you are doing something that's going to have like heavy notions like buttons or zippers or, you know, purse handles or whatever, that are not actually a knitted part of the project or a yarn part of the project, weigh the finished project before adding your buttons or your zipper or whatever. Okay, so it's just the yarn portion that counts. Okay, I've got some new things to show you this week, and it's all yarn. It has been a very, very long time since I have done much yarn purchasing. I realized I'm not even sure when the last time was. I know I order things online occasionally, but lately it's been more like project bags or books or things like that. It's been a while since I've done some yarn shopping, and it's sort of funny because now I'm going to Rhinebeck this weekend, so I'll probably be doing some this weekend. But let me just show you some of this stuff. The first one is exciting to me, but it's also sort of sad because it's the result of a local yarn shop closing. We had a shop here in the east end of Pittsburgh called Natural Stitches. I think they were there for like 10 years. It was a fabulous shop. I did not get down there nearly as much as I would have liked to, because even though it was close, it was just far enough away that it was not a convenient place for me to go with any regularity. But they had a fabulous wall of Cascade 220. All the Cascade 220 colors. It was beauteous, beauteous. And they had a full selection of all the other kind of yarns and needles, and they carried spinning fiber and Ashford wheels and books, and it was just a lovely, lovely shop. I'm very, very sad that they're closed. When I got the news that they were closing, it was going to be a fairly short order, and then they were starting to put stuff on sale. Well, I never got down there for their going out of business sale. However, Bonnie, my friend Bonnie, who helps me out with yarn stuff, she went down, and so she let me know, because I had said, you know, the only thing I'd really like to go down there and look at it would be the Cascade 220 wall, because, you know, I have a thing for Cascade 220. So while she was down there, she texted me and told me how much they were on sale for, which was a fabulous price. I think they were down to like $5.40 from $9. That's a good price for Cascade 220 because it's a really good, hardworking, nice wool. So I started sending her colorway numbers to see if she could find them for me, and she did find a bunch of them. So that's what I'll show you. I've my addition to my Cascade 220 stash. I've got a basket up on the bookcase that you cannot see from here, and I can't really move the camera to show you, but you might remember it because when I filled it up, I placed an order from Webb's a while back, probably about a year ago, because that's when I also bought my sweater quantity for my antler cardigan, that aspen colorway. I'd purchased one skein of the aspen, and then I realized I loved it and I wanted it for that sweater, so I got more. But I showed you all that Cascade 220. So this is just more going in that basket. So this is color number 9655, which is Blueberry Heather. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh my gosh, the purples and blues in there. This is Mystic Purple, which is number 2450. Tiny numbers on here, and yeah, I'm having to do this because I don't have my cheaters here. Whoopsie, this one's going to open up on me. This is number 9452, Summer Sky Heather. I pretty much went all for the heathers because I just love the heathers. This one is 2433, Pacific, which is an awesome tealy blue. Oh, yummy. And lastly, this is one, I buy this color every time I buy a Cascade 220 Heathers because I love it. It's straw, and the number is 4010. This color has been around forever, and I adore this color. I've used it for so many different projects. And so I just always like to make sure I have some. So those are the additions to my Cascade 220 stash, and I make no apologies for those because, like I said, it is one of my absolute favorite commercial yarns. It may be my favorite commercial worsted weight yarn. It's sort of a light worsted weight, but it's a nice worsted weight yarn. all 100% Peruvian Highland wool, not superwash. They do have a superwash version of Cascade 220. I've never been real crazy about it though. It's definitely a light worsted weight, but I've used it when I've needed to make, you know, those kind of projects. When you're making something for somebody that you know they're not going to hand wash it, Cascade 220 superwash is perfectly wonderful. Although my main choice for that would be Malabrigo Rios. That's an excellent superwash wool to make gifts out of. So, okay. My other new things came from a serendipitous opportunity that I had this week. I had a dentist appointment on Tuesday. I switched dentists earlier this year, so I'm actually going to a dentist that is much closer to where I'm living now, up in the mountains. And the little town is called Ligonier. And it's a cute, quaint little town. Matter of fact, this weekend is also Fort Ligonier Days, which is this festival that goes on every year. I mean, it was going on when I was a kid. So it's going to be a madhouse in Ligonier this weekend. But hey, if you're in the area and you like that kind of historical stuff, there's a fort, you know, an old fort there. I forget from which era it is from. I don't know, but it's pretty cool. You can go through the fort and, you know, there's all the festival stuff and booths and vendors and food and what have you. There used to be a Ligonier Days parade. I don't know if there is still or not. But anyway, there's a shop, a yarn shop in Ligonier as well. So I was up there for my dentist appointment, and usually when either Bill or I have a dentist appointment, we'll just meet the other one and we'll go out to dinner afterwards because there's this nice little Chinese place we like to go to up there. So he was going to meet me for dinner after my dentist appointment. He said he'd get there a little bit after 5. Well, my appointment was a little bit after 4, and I have really good teeth. It never takes very long for people to clean my teeth and for me to be out of there. So I had about a half hour to pass before he was going to be around, and I didn't really feel like sitting in the dentist's office just waiting. So I texted him and I said, hey, I'm done. I'm going up to the yarn shop. I'll just meet you at the Chinese place. So that's what I did. I went up, and the shop's name is Bo Peep Fine Yarns. Here's their bag. They have these clear plastic bags with these great stickers on them. So Bo Peep Fine Yarns. The owner, Michelle, was not there, but the manager, at least I'm assuming she's the manager. Are you the manager, Vicki? Vicki was there, and so I got to talk to her and catch up with her. Hadn't seen her in a while. And I just got to spend like about 20 minutes or so flying through this shop. I hadn't been there in quite a while, over a year, and it's actually technically now my LYS because it's real close to where I live. I mean, and by real close, that's a relative statement when you're in the mountains. It's probably about 20-25 minutes away from where I live now, but that's close enough when you're up there. Anyway, I did do some damage. It's probably good that I did not have more time because, like I said, I haven't been in an LYS in a while, and there was a bunch of things there that I had not seen. Now, this I have seen before, but it was in the discount basket, and it's Noro, so you know where this is going. I had to rescue it, right? Look at this. It's beautiful. It's Tayo. This is a 40% cotton, 30% silk, 15% wool, 15% nylon blend. I've seen sweaters and garments made out of this yarn, and I think it's fabulous. This will be a lovely yarn for like a change of seasons kind of garment, I think. Now, I only bought these 3 skeins. There was at least 2 more, but I wasn't sure what I was going to want to do with it. So I didn't want to buy all of them. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on Ravelry and I'm going to look and see what things people have made with this yarn, and if there's any garment patterns that I would like that I could make yardage wise with 5 skeins, because I figure I could probably run up there and hopefully those other skeins would be left. I could pick them up, but you know, if I can find a garment that I might like, I may do that. I don't know. We'll see. This is very, very soft though. I know some Noro is a little on the prickly side, but this is not. It would be a lovely, lovely sweater. So I got those, and then I got 2 things that I had never seen before. One is a Cascade yarn, but I had not seen this particular yarn. It's Roslyn, which is a 65% wool, 35% silk yarn. I was looking at it yardage-wise. I was thinking, oh, this is probably about a sport weight, but actually stitches per inch and needle size that calls for US 6 and 22 stitches over 4 inches. That's close to a DK. So I have absolutely no plans for this yarn, but I just loved the tweediness of it. I don't know if you can see that real clearly. It's a deep eggplanty purple with these lovely blue tweedy bits in there. Can you see that? I don't know. It's super pretty. And that's not veg matter. That's a fuzzy. Sorry. It's soft. It's pretty. I originally thought I could do socks out of it, like pretty tweedy socks, but they would be very heavy socks. So I'm not sure I want to do that. I don't know. Again, I'm just going to look at pattern ideas and see what other people have made with it and go from there. And it's probably just going to ruminate in my stash. Ruminate. That's not the word I'm looking for. Ruminate is when you like chew on things, right? Cows ruminate. Marinate. It's going to marinate in my stash. Wow. Anyway, the other yarn that I picked up that I had not seen before is Juniper Moon Farm. This is Harriet Fine. Now that color is way blown out in that light. If I hold it back here, it's better. I'm going to say it's sort of like a pond, scummy, algae green, which doesn't make it sound very delightful, but it's actually a very, very pretty color, a yellowy green. Loved the color. They actually had a color of this that was super similar to this, but I didn't want to get both things in the same color. So this is color number 2015. Oh, this cascade was what? Oh, color number 19. That's exciting. Okay. But no, this one, this Harriet Fine, is Pampa Sunrise. Okay. At least they gave it a name. It is baby alpaca blended with nylon. Now, I got to tell you, it's 75% alpaca, 25% polyamide nylon. I'm not a huge fan of alpaca to knit with, or spin with for that matter. It does not have stretch. It doesn't have memory. Alpaca is just a very drapey fabric, beautiful for shawls, and it's got a lovely halo. Can you see that halo on there? Yeah. That is a beautiful halo. I made myself a sweater one time many years ago out of a worsted weight alpaca. This was before I really understood the characteristics of alpaca. It ended up being like a dress. It ended up being more like a pup tent because I was much larger at the time too, so that didn't help. So it was a very, very large brown sweater that had this slip stitch color work around the sleeves, and I think around the bottom of the sweater, if I remember correctly. You could probably look in my project pages on Ravelry and you would see it. Well, oh my gosh. Number one, it grew because, again, no elasticity in it. And there was nothing else in it. It was 100% alpaca. It grew. It was super long. The sleeves came down to like 6 inches past my fingertips. I remember having to cut the sleeves off right above the color work, rip out, I don't know, 6, 8 inches, and then graft the sleeves back on, the cuff part onto the sleeves. It turned out fine. I think I only wore it maybe 2 or 3 times though, because it was so hot. That's the other thing about alpaca. It's super warm. Alpaca, I believe, is one of the fibers. It's like a hollow fiber, so it holds air and it's very warm. So I don't know, but this color of this yarn was beautiful. It's so soft. I love the halo. I don't know what it'll become. It'll probably be some sort of shawl or wrap at some point, but it had to come home with me. So those are my new things. Okay, coming up, Rhinebeck. Rhinebeck this weekend. Let me tell you this story because it's sort of funny, and I'm sorry, I have to adjust this bra strap again. Man. So unladylike. Although if it was a guy doing it, we'd have other issues probably. I don't know. Where did that come from? Anyway, Rhinebeck. I had no plans to go to Rhinebeck at all this year. I mean, it wasn't even on the radar because I knew it was a really busy travel year. I had been in Maryland. I figured I was good. So then earlier this week, I don't know, it was probably Tuesday evening, Bill and I were sitting here eating dinner and just talking about our week, and we just were in Canada the week before last. Last week was a super busy week because he had to do a whole lot of traveling for work. Last weekend was really busy getting stuff done around the houses that we needed to be working on. I had work I had to work on. And so this coming weekend, we were talking about the fact that we had nothing on the calendar and how awesome that was because we'd be able to accomplish a whole bunch of things that we need to be doing. Because next weekend, then we have a canoe trip that we're going on. So I thought, great, we've got this weekend, we can take advantage of it. So as we're sitting there, then I just sort of said, nonchalantly, I'm like, it's Rhinebeck weekend. And he's not been to Rhinebeck, but he knows what it is. And he's like, okay. I said, just saying, it's Rhinebeck weekend. And, the funny thing is, like, I'm fine with the idea of not going to Rhinebeck until about the week before Rhinebeck. And then I'm like, I want to go to Rhinebeck too, because I hear everybody talking about it and everybody's excited and everything. So anyway, I just mentioned it to him. I said, yeah, it's Rhinebeck weekend. I said, it's only a 6.5-hour drive. He's like, well, that's not bad. I'm like, no. I said, if we left as soon as you got home from work on Friday, drove up, we could sleep in the back of the car in a Walmart parking lot. We could go to Rhinebeck first thing Saturday morning. It's done by 5. We could get in the car, drive home, and we'd be home by midnight and still have all of Sunday to do stuff. And he's like, well, we could do that. He said, I don't have like a burning desire to go to New York this weekend. He said, but if you really want to do that, I'll go with you. Which, is that not a wonderful guy who is willing to indulge in a weird whim like that? I said, yeah. I said, but that's kind of crazy. I said, I don't really need to go. The only reason I love going to Rhinebeck or Maryland or any of those, the number one reason is to get to see people. I love just getting to meet up with friends and see people who know me from the podcast and meet you guys. That's what I love the most. The shopping is a distant second. Actually, the shopping's probably third because I like to look at stuff, not necessarily buy, And I also always consider it, sort of PR for my business because I do get to talk to customers. I usually bring like samples to hand out and things like that. I am totally unprepared for Rhinebeck this year, just so you know. I don't think I'm going to have anything to bring with me. But anyway, so we talked about it, and finally, by Wednesday morning, I said, yeah, that was just crazy pants. There's no reason to go to Rhinebeck this weekend. We're just going to stay home as we planned, get stuff done. We'll go out to dinner, have a nice dinner Friday night or something. So fine. That was yesterday as of breakfast. So then he went to work. I drove here to work. And when I got here, I had an email from him. He's like, here, go to this eBay page and look at this canoe. Tell me what you think. I'm like, okay, that's wild and random. Well, ever since we were on our canoe trip in Canada a couple weeks ago, he said, if we're going to keep doing these kind of trips, we need to get a new canoe for this kind of trip because this one just about killed him having to portage this canoe because it's a super heavy canoe. He says, I'm just not as young as I used to be. I can't do this kind of trip with this boat anymore. So, we had been looking at canoes just in a very general sense, not like having any urgency to need to buy one because we don't have any more of those trips on the calendar yet. I'm sure we'll do one next year sometime, but buying a canoe is not a top priority. However, Bill is one of those people who, like, when he knows he's going to be looking for something, he starts, looking at Craigslist and eBay just to see what's out there, catch any good deals. He does the same thing with motorcycles, to tell you the truth. But anyway, he found this canoe that was a really, really good deal, a very good canoe. And I could tell that, like, he knows about canoes. I don't really know about canoes, but he was very excited about this canoe. And so I looked at it and I said, well, yeah, it looks like it's a great deal. I said, but it's in New Hampshire. He's like, yeah, that's the only downside. He said, just to go up to New Hampshire to pick up a canoe, it's like over 9 hours one way. He's like, I don't know if I can justify that. I said, yeah, that seems like a bummer. And then I said, it's only 3 hours from Rhinebeck, though. And pretty much that was all I needed to say. And he's like, yep. He said, we'd be going up there anyway. We'd go to Rhinebeck. We could go another 3 hours, pick up the canoe, come home, all in one fell swoop. Perfect plan. So that's how I'm coming to go to Rhinebeck, because we're buying a canoe. Or, well, I guess now we've purchased the canoe and we'll be picking it up on Sunday morning and then driving home. So, all that to say, thanks to the canoe, I get to go to Rhinebeck. And I am very excited. I can't wait to see you guys. I'm going to do my best to be at the podcaster meetup, which I think is at 1 o'clock on Saturday on that hillside, right, sort of as you come in. That's always where it's been. I'm pretty sure it's probably in the same place, but, you might want to double check on that. I might want to double check on that. So anyway, we'll be there Saturday, not Sunday, but I'm looking forward to it. So yay, and it's going to be a beautiful weekend from what I can tell from the forecast. So perfect Rhinebeck weather. Should be lovely. Alrighty. Let's go to 10% now. 10%, I've got a couple books to tell you about. Number one, Bill and I just finished reading Winter Dance. We love to read to each other. It's one of our favorite things to do in the evenings or on car trips and things like that. Whoever's not driving can read. And we just finished reading a book called Winter Dance by Gary Paulsen. You might recognize the name Gary Paulsen if you've got kids, especially boys of like the preteen age, middle school age, because Gary Paulsen wrote Hatchet, and then a couple of other books. I don't know if they were sequels to Hatchet or just other books similar to that. I don't know. I just know my oldest son loved Gary Paulsen books when he was that age. Anyway, he also has some adult audience books out, and this one is called Winter Dance. It's about his experience running the Iditarod. And it's just kind of funny because he knew nothing about running the Iditarod. He knew nothing about running sled dogs. So this was a very much learn as you go, baptism by fire experience for him. But he managed to get through it, and it was a very interesting book. Bill used to have sled dogs. That he, obviously in Pennsylvania, you don't run the Iditarod here in Pennsylvania, but they were his pets, and they, so he knows, he had a point of reference for, the whole sled dog aspect of it. He had huskies, and then another dog that was not husky, it was something else, I don't remember. Anyway, big dog. So it was some of it was a little disturbing, some of the things that he reported from seeing throughout the race, because it's very grueling, hard endurance kind of activity. But it was a good book. So if you like that kind of thing, I can recommend that one to you. Winter Dance by Gary Paulsen. A book I just finished listening to from Audible is called Etymologicon, A Circular Stroll Through the Hidden Connections of the English Language. Very long title. It's by Mark Forsyth, and I don't remember who the reader was, but oh my goodness, he was very good. I loved his voice. It was basically exactly what that says, a circular stroll through how different words in the English language, words and phrases, are connected. So in that respect, it was very stream of consciousness almost, because he'd start talking about the origin of one word or phrase, and then that would lead to another, which would lead to another, which, that's what the whole book was. It was wonderful. I love that kind of nerdy stuff, grammar-y, nerdy, literary stuff or language stuff. But the information was coming so fast that it was very hard to retain any of what you were hearing. I mean, there's a few things that really stuck out to me that I do remember and I will remember, like the word oxymoron. Okay, oxy comes from a word that basically means sharp, and moron comes from a word that basically means soft. So sharp, soft, oxymoron. The word oxymoron is an oxymoron. I think that is fabulous. That just makes my heart go pitter-patter. Anyway, so you might want to check that out. I loved it. And I just downloaded, I purchased it a while ago and haven't listened to it, but I just downloaded and started listening to Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Higgs, which I know is out now as a movie. But I just started listening to it yesterday, and I am loving it. It's really good so far. So I've heard mixed reviews about it. That's why I wasn't real sure if I was going to like it or not. And it's actually not what I was expecting it to be, to tell you the truth. I don't know that I ever actually, I'm sure I probably read the synopsis of it at some point, but anyway, I am enjoying it. So if you've read it, I'd be interested to hear what your take on it was. But anyway, yeah, good book. Oh my goodness, now I have something in my eye. It's probably some alpaca. Ow. Oh, that hurts. Okay. Let's move on to shop news. First of all, there's not going to be another actual full shop update until the end of the month. October 26th, which is a Wednesday, at 7 p.m. Eastern, is going to be the next shop update. I plan to have some Christmas colorways in the shop at that point. So, Christmas, winter, holiday colorways. So you can be looking for those, and I'll have more information about that, obviously, coming up, hopefully next week. Let's see. I'm not doing an actual update, but what I will be doing, I've been going through inventory. So I'm going to be marking down a lot of stuff that's been in the shop. I'll be putting more stuff on sale. There's an on sale category tab in the shop. Click on that. I usually, when I'm ready to just kind of move stuff out of the shop, I discount it pretty well. So if you're interested in checking that out, please do. Additionally, I've been going through my own yarn stash. I have my own stash of my Fiber Nymph Dye Works yarn. And you know, if you've followed the podcast for a while, periodically I go through it and I weed things out, and then I do what's called a dyer's secret stash kind of sale. Not so much a specific sale, but I put those up in the shop because, see, I pull things out thinking, oh, I'll make, you know, a sample out of this, or maybe it's something that I dyed as a test skein and just it never really turned out right, or didn't turn out to be what the ultimate finished yarn color would be, or I have things that maybe had a little bit of wonkiness, or maybe it wasn't a full skein or something like that. So I've got a lot of those things pulled out. Matter of fact, they're all here. I'm not going to show them all to you, but here, I'll pull my ironing board over. This pile here, this is all Dyer's secret stash that is going to be going up into the shop. Not for a specific update, but you might want to watch the shop if you want to see what it is, because there's a lot. Some of it is, you know, test skeins of club colorways. Some of it's just stuff that I pulled out and I thought I would make samples, and now I'm not, because they're either colorways I don't do anymore, or they're bases I don't use anymore, things like that. So a lot of one-of-a-kind items. So you can be checking that out over the next several days. The other thing, though, that is going to be in the shop, it is in the shop now, and I'm very excited isn't really the right word for this, and I'll explain why. First of all, here's the skein of yarn, and you've seen it before because this is the colorway I dyed up for SSK this summer. This was my Smooth Sailing Sunny Skies colorway, my SSK 2016 colorway. I dyed it for SSK, and then I said I would be putting it in the shop this fall, which I planned to do in October. So I was looking at this the other day, and it's like, I really want to put this in the shop, but then at the same time, Hurricane Matthew was happening. And then Hurricane Matthew was wreaking all kinds of havoc on so many places. Haiti, in the United States, and it was just like, it was all this devastation. And I'm like, even though this is not a specific colorway that has anything to do with Matthew, I just felt really weird putting a colorway up in the shop called Smooth Sailing Sunny Skies in the face of all of this hurricane disaster going on. Yet, on the other hand, I've had people asking me about this colorway, and I keep saying, yes, it's going to go up in October, it's going to go up in October. So then I had an idea. What I'm doing is I have this listed in the shop now. It's listed as a pre-order, and I'm going to be donating a portion of the profits from every skein that's pre-ordered now through the end of October to hurricane relief efforts, both in Haiti and here in the United States. So however many skeins sell, and you can go to the listing, I'm not going to give you all of the details. I've offered it on 7 different bases as a pre-order. Each base costs a little bit different, so the amount that I'm donating from each skein is slightly different dollar-wise, but it's roughly 50% of my profit is what I'm donating. So once it's all sold and we get to the end of October, I will figure out how much I sold, what that profit was from that, what the amount was per skein, I guess I should say, that I'm committed to donating, and then I'm going to split it. 50% of that will go to Haiti H2O, which is actually an organization based here in Pittsburgh. I know the director of that, and it's a very good organization, and they work in Haiti to help the people that are in most need in general, but especially at this time in the face of this hurricane, you know, to have clean water and food and, you know, to sustain themselves, to build a sustainable community. So 50% will go to them, and then the other 50% will go to the American Red Cross, specifically for Hurricane Matthew relief efforts. So if you would like a chance to help out in that small way and get this beautiful skein of yarn, which again, I did not design this specifically for this effort, but I can't think of a better skein to offer for this kind of an effort, then please feel free to order a skein or two, or share that with somebody that you know who might want to do that. Anytime you're hit with a hurricane, whether it's, you know, I don't have firsthand experience with it. I live in Western Pennsylvania. We don't get hurricanes here. But, you know, storms of any kind, any type of natural disaster that takes its toll, or the internal storms, which, you know, we've all had. Sometimes it can feel like there are never going to be sunny skies again. We're never going to have smooth sailing. And quite honestly, the rebuilding is going to take a very, very long time. Literally, in this case, with the hurricane, the loss of life will never be recovered. If you're going through your own personal hurricane kind of thing, you know, you feel some days like you're never going to be able to rebuild, but you will. And there's always hope. And that has sort of been my life's mantra for a very long time, especially in my last several years of life. There's always hope. And this is one of those colorways that I've dyed in my life as a dyer that is meant to embody that message. You know, smooth sailing, sunny skies. We all need that hope for that kind of thing. So I'm really happy to be able to offer this for this purpose at this time. So anyway, that's through the end of October. Please go to the listing in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works shop. You can read all of the details of all of that there. I'm trying to be as upfront and transparent about how I'm doing this as possible so that you know what you're getting and what I'm going to be doing with that money. So anyway, and thank you to those of you who have already ordered, because some people have already ordered. I actually put the listing up yesterday. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that, and so will the people who will benefit from that help that you're giving them. Lastly, I want to tell you about not just one club that I've got coming up, but two. Yes, I'm going to be wild and crazy, and I am offering 2 clubs starting this fall. They're going to be on alternating months, though. The first one is going to be called the Killarney Collection Club. Now, as you know, I was just in Canada on a canoe trip through Killarney Provincial Park, and anytime I am out in nature, I am always inspired by what I see around me, and that trip was no exception. So you might remember earlier this year I went to Antigua, and based on that, I started coming out with it was an unofficial Antigua collection, really. I named the colorways all based on bodies of water and bays, like there was Half Moon and Runaway and Rendezvous and Falmouth and oh my gosh, I can't remember all of the Willoughby, you know, and there was another one that I'm blanking on right now, but I think there was 6 of them in total that all were inspired by my trip to Antigua, and they're variegated with the speckles, and they've been very good sellers. You guys have really, really liked those. So that is what I have in mind for this Killarney collection, although it's going to be obviously completely different colors than those bright, flashy, summery colors of Antigua. These will be more those north woodsy, deep, earthy, think that kind of color palette. Obviously, they're all going to be different. I'm not going to make 3 different colorways the same, but that's more where this is going to be coming from, based on my experiences in Canada a couple weeks ago. So the Killarney Collection Club, the shipments will go out November, January, and March. I will be putting the information up about both clubs soon. Sign-ups for that club will be happening this month. And as far as I'm concerned at this point, I probably won't put a limit on how many people can sign up for that. Unless it really starts to seem like it's going to be too gigantic that I can't handle it. But because of the type of yarn that I'll be dyeing, you know, the variegated with speckly kind of yarns, those I can do in greater quantity than I can do like a self-striping or something. So that's the first club. So be looking for that. The second club is going to be a pie club. Yes, pie. I've had my Pie Day yarn, my second helping of pie, the darker side of pie, and most recently Hallow Pie, which is my Halloween colorway. I am enjoying doing these self-striping pie colorways, and again, the self-striping part is the stripes are based on the numerical sequence of pie. And so that's what this is going to be. It's going to be a pie of the every other month club. So I am going to do 3 new pie colorways that will be exclusive to this club. My club colorways are always exclusive for at least 6 months, and a lot of times much longer than that, because I don't always do them in a fast order after that 6-month period to put into the shop. So if you have been enjoying the pie colorways and you would like to get some exclusive pie colorways that won't be available to the general shop for quite a while, you might want to check out the Pie of the Every Other Month Club. I can't wait to do these. These are colorway ideas I've had for pie for a while now, and I decided I want to do them as a club. So the Pie Club will ship in December, February, and April. So 2 altogether separate clubs. You can join one or you can join the other. If you're really wild and crazy, you can join both. Totally up to you. As usual, there will be a choice of bases, and there will be a choice of how you want to pay. You can either pay per month, per shipment, or you can pay up front, and you will get a discount if you pay the whole club up front. Okay, I will have all of that information up about both clubs, hopefully by next week's episode. And then I will also have sign-ups starting sometime next week. Probably when I record, I will open up sign-ups for the Killarney Collection Club. So stay tuned for more information, but I'm really excited about both of those clubs, and I hope you will be too. The Pie Club will be limited, though, just because that's a very labor-intensive colorway to do, to have to wind it and then, you know, dye all the segments and everything. That one's more labor-intensive, so I will have to put a limit on how many people I can have in that club, but the Killarney Collection Club should be pretty wide open for the most part. Okay, that's all I've got for you this week. Thank you so much for watching. If you're going to be at Rhinebeck, again, please say hi if you see me. Again, I'm so sorry. I didn't have the heads up time. I don't know what I'm even saying now. I didn't have time to plan to bring anything with me. Usually I'll have buttons or samples or something to bring out, but we just decided to go literally yesterday. So it'll just be me. Hugs. I'm always happy to give hugs, though. So if you want a hug, say hi. I'll give you a hug. We can talk. Be great. Okay, that's it. Have a great weekend no matter what you're doing. Stay safe. Stay dry. If you're battling water, I really hope your situation improves soon. And anyway, I'll talk to you next week. Take care.